There's a particular kind of loneliness that only exists in the presence of other people. You're drowning, and someone throws you a rope, and you, impossibly, inexplicably, let it slip through your fingers. You watch them standing there, hand extended, confusion in their eyes, and some terrible force inside you whispers, "Go, leave me here. I need to do this alone." And the worst part? You have no idea why. People who push others away when struggling aren't emotionally illiterate. They're not incapable of connection. In fact, if you look at their lives, you'll often find the opposite. These are the people everyone else turns to. The friend who always picks up the phone. The partner who remembers the small things. The colleague who notices when someone's having a hard day. But when their own world starts crumbling, something fundamental shifts. The people who are most capable of holding space for others become mysteriously unable to let anyone hold space for them. It's not that they don't want help. It's that accepting help feels like a category error, like trying to breathe underwater or speak in a language that doesn't exist. This isn't about being difficult. It's about operating from a logic that makes perfect sense, but only if you understand where it came from. Most people who push others away learned early that their value was conditional, not through anything dramatic. There doesn't need to be capital T trauma. Sometimes it's as simple as watching a parent's face tighten when you cried, hearing, "You're being too sensitive," enough times that you internalized it as fact, being praised for being mature or independent or never any trouble. These messages create an invisible contract. I am acceptable when I am not a burden. Here's what makes this insidious. The contract feels like truth. It feels like you've simply discovered how the world works, how relationships function, what it means to be a worthwhile person. You don't experience it as a belief you could question. You experience it as reality. So when you're struggling, when you're anxious, depressed, grieving, lost, allowing someone to witness that doesn't feel like vulnerability. It feels like breach of contract. It feels like revealing that you've been fraudulent all along. The strong, capable, put-together person they thought they knew was a lie. And now they're going to see the real you, messy, needy, fundamentally too much. When you push someone away, you're not trying to hurt them. You're trying to protect them and yourself from what you believe is inevitable. Their disappointment, their withdrawal, their realization that you're not worth the effort. This is the cruel mathematics of self-protection. You reject them before they can reject you. You leave before they can leave. You disappear before they discover there's nothing worth staying for. But here's what you can't see from inside this logic. You're not predicting their response. You're creating it. Think about what happens from the other person's perspective. They care about you. They see you struggling. They reach out and you deflect, minimize, insist you're fine, or simply vanish. They reach out again. Same response. Eventually, they face an impossible choice. Keep pushing and risk making you feel more overwhelmed, or step back and risk abandoning you. Most people step back, not because they don't care, but because they do. They're trying to respect what they think you want, and you experience their stepping back as proof. See? I knew they'd leave. I knew I was too much. I knew no one really wants to deal with this. You don't realize you've just constructed a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you're struggling, your nervous system is already in overdrive. Your brain is interpreting the world as dangerous, and it's allocating resources accordingly. Less energy for connection, more for self-preservation. This is the polyvagal nervous system doing exactly what it evolved to do. But here's the complication. For people with early experiences of conditional acceptance, social connection itself can register as a threat, not intellectually. Your conscious mind knows. Your friend texting to check in is trying to help. But your nervous system, shaped by years of learning that needing others leads to rejection, reads that text as danger. If I respond honestly, they'll see too much. If they see too much, they'll leave. Connection equals abandonment. So your body does what bodies do when facing threat. It fights, flees, or freezes. Fighting looks like irritability, snapping at people who get too close. Flight looks like literally avoiding people, not responding to messages, canceling plans. Freeze looks like emotional numbness, going through the motions while feeling completely disconnected. None of these are conscious choices. They're survival responses to a perceived threat that isn't actually there, but your nervous system doesn't know that. Underneath the pushing away, underneath the insistence that you're fine, there's usually a truth you're terrified to speak. I need help, and I don't know how to ask for it without proving I'm fundamentally defective. This is the double bind. You can't reveal struggle without shame. You can't ask for support without feeling like you're confirming every fear you have about yourself. The very act of reaching out feels like evidence of your inadequacy, so you stay silent, you isolate. You tell yourself you're being strong or independent, or that you're protecting people you love from the burden of your pain, but you're not protecting anyone. You're just suffering alone. The way out isn't through forced vulnerability or making yourself accept help before you're ready. It's through understanding that the premise is wrong. You're not too much. You were never too much. You were a person with needs in environments that couldn't meet them, and you adapted by learning to need less. That adaptation made sense. It may have even kept you safe, but it's not serving you anymore. Real intimacy, the kind that actually sustains us, doesn't exist in perfection. It exists in the messy middle, in the moments when someone sees you struggling and doesn't flinch, when they show up, not because you've earned it by being easy, but because that's what connection means. The people who love you don't want your polished self, they want you, which includes the parts that hurt, the parts that need, the parts that aren't sure they're worth loving. Start small. You don't need to bare your soul. You need to practice letting someone sit next to you in the mess without immediately cleaning it up or apologizing for it. One honest answer to, "How are you?" One admission that you're having a hard week. One moment of not being fine. And then notice, do they leave or do they stay? Most of the time they stay. Not because you finally earned it, but because they were always willing to. You just never gave them the chance. Pushing people away when you're struggling isn't a personality flaw. It's not evidence that you're broken or that you don't know how to have relationships. It's a learned response to environments that taught you your pain was unwelcome. But here's what you have to accept. Continuing to push people away now, in relationships where that's not actually true, means you're still letting those old environments win. You're still operating from rules that no longer apply. You're still protecting yourself from threats that no longer exist. The work isn't learning to trust people. The work is learning to trust your own worthiness of being trusted. You don't push people away because you don't need them. You push them away because you need them so much that the possibility of losing them feels unbearable. But loss isn't less painful because you orchestrated it. It's just lonelier.